Watch to see how I reline this vintage leather jacket. I started out by dyeing this leather jacket darker, and in doing so, I created a bit of a mess on the lining. And it's vintage, so it's a little bit stinky too. I started by cutting out the lining, which was about 1.5 inches off the edge. I don't have a sewing machine that can handle leather, so I decided just to keep the edges of it so I could sew my new lining onto it. I then unpicked each individual part of the lining and pinned it to my new fabric. I cut the fabric around the edge of the pattern, leaving 2 inches on the edges where I had cut from the edge of the original lining. I also marked on each individual piece that I'd cut up so that when I put it back together, I knew which one went where. I then went to work on sewing all of those pieces together to create the new lining. I honestly could not believe how well it went, to be honest. The more complicated bit came when I had to then reattach the lining to the edges so that it would then sit back inside the old jacket. As I mentioned before, my sewing machine can't handle leather, so I hand stitched the entire lining back in, which actually didn't take as long as I thought it would. Here I am stitching it back on to the bottom of the lining now. This was the last bit. I did use a slightly different technique for the stitching at the bottom hem, which meant that the stitches were not visible from the outside because I was stitching that from the outside rather than the inside, which is what I did for the rest of the jacket. And voila! A new lining created, a lot less stinky, and it actually feels really soft as well. And look at that, I can wear it reversed. How fun! I'd say all in all, the lining project probably took me about 5 hours in total, but it was well worth it for the end result, I think. A good DIY at-home hack to give your wardrobe a bit of extra life. What do you think? Comment below.